I mean, there should be a lot of opportunity here to bring your cost per result down and get it
Right.
profitable. So they have, and you mentioned this on the last call, I believe, that you've messed with. And sorry if I'm asking too many questions already, but you mentioned you have messed with lookalike audiences a little bit. Is that using their customer email list?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then they have the app set up for Shopify for like lookalike audiences and stuff like that for Facebook ads.
Okay.
And retargeting and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm doing retargeting. I'm doing lookalikes. So yeah, let me share my screen real quick so you can see the reporting. I started out probably targeting too broadly, where I was basically trying different landing pages with my ad sets rather than just setting up a single ad unit for a particular like ad set. So I wound up deactivating them because I noticed there was no like material difference between where I landed the consumer and what they purchased. So we had also set up this sort of like gift page. So we built like a little like landing page for the holidays that could send users to it, and then they just had a couple of key products that they could add to cart and just try to reduce the friction in the funnel as best as possible.
Did that work?
Not really. There wasn't really a noticeable uptick.
And did you send them straight from the ad to that page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent them straight to. I tried Root. I tried a holiday stocking stuffer landing page, and then we tried a holiday stocking stuffer landing page that wasn't holiday branded. So this is just
and who are you sending? Is it cold traffic or is it your lookalike audiences? Are you retargeting the email list?
It was everybody.
Okay.
So what I had set up was a different landing page for each ad set. And then eventually I just sort of abandoned it and focused all on holiday landing pages. And just because I was like, oh, that'll, like, everything's sort of right there. Like, there's a product for every price point from $15 all the way up to like $200. And then it sort of gets them into the ecosystem more quickly. The website still needs a little bit of work in terms of like really dialing in the message and stuff and like really targeting it, but we didn't have time to jerk around with that stuff.
Okay. So I just have one thought here, and it's just kind of on the surface, but depending on who you're sending to that page, there may need to be a step in between, like a squeeze page, where it's just educational, and so by the time they land to that shop page where they can actually add to cart, they know exactly what the product is, right? Like when we first jumped on this call, you taking the second to explain to me that it's coffee in a tea bag, basically. Like, I think they need exactly that in a quick little page. Maybe, again, like this is all testing, but I think like a little bit of education so that when they land on the shop page, they know what they're, getting. And that's why I wanted to also ask, like, who exactly are you sending? Are they cold traffic? Are they previous customers? Because if I'm saying this and it's just previous customers that you've been doing that with, well, they already know what the deal is and what the product is. So then that completely, destroys my theory here. But I think there may be a need for an educational step in between the add to cart button and the ad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. We could do that. And we haven't run any video ads yet. In terms of the creative itself, it's been pretty basic in terms of like the ad. I do hate that Facebook doesn't give you like a graph that shows you the effectiveness of the ads, like the way that AdWords does.
Yeah. Do you know? So if you back out to if you go hover over the name of it, and then underneath it view charts, do you know about that in there?
Nope.
I don't know. I don't think this is gonna. This is gonna maybe kind of be what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, there it is. Worth $250 already. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. They do kind of hide that though. Honestly, you got to know to hover, and then it's like a tiny little gray button. But
yeah, Google, they put it right at the top. Graphs. Graphs, so you can take screen grabs of it, put in the decks. Um, so yeah, that's sort of where we are. And now I'm at this point where I've spent $4,000 on ads. We've sold 123 units through Facebook and Instagram. We're at like a $33 purchase point. I have not yet aligned like 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 I have not aligned like the cost per result with like what people actually purchased. So I'm in the process of doing that today.
Okay. Because I was just gonna ask that. What do you think then? Just like kind of on average, their um, cart value is like, are they spending $40, $50, $20?
So on average, they're spending between $20 and $50.
Okay.
And so we worked with Nate to put the little free shipping at $40 as like a threshold based on this sort of cost per result. So if we figure, okay, if they're gonna buy $40 worth, then at least we're netting somewhat positive ROI for the ads.
Right. Okay. And so this is then, and I believe you mentioned this on the first call, but more or less this is around break even. Maybe losing a bit.
Yeah, we're probably losing a bit. So I'd love to be able to get this cost per result much lower.
Okay.
But I don't know where to say. I mean, what's cool is like the guys trust us, and we're not going to be fools with their money. But this represents a large spend for them, and we wanted to keep coming back and keep doing this. So we're going to need to get the cost per result lower to increase the profitability of those cart values.
Of course. Okay. And I'm sure there's more to be explained, but have you tried? And it may not be enough but have you tried off of just the purchases that you've got, creating lookalike audiences off of those emails?
I have not.
Okay. All right. Well, so I mean, just looking at it right now, I think it's honestly like that's a lot of purchases. You've spent a good amount, but the fact that you're getting those purchases and you're getting them not too far out of like break even, I mean, there should be a lot of opportunity here to bring your cost per result down and get it profitable. I will just I mean, and we'll see as we look through more stuff, and I'm sure you already know this, there's several pieces of it that you have to test and optimize and work on, and like there's like right now I'm not going to say there's like do this one thing and that's going to drive all your costs down. You're going to have to like test quite a bit, and I think a video, for example, would probably be a worthy test to run, because that's going to be a very different ad than just a stale image that then takes them to a page where there's not really tons of information educating them on what's going on. So yeah, I mean, you guys have a lot of purchases, and that's the biggest thing. So that looks really good to me. I'm not saying that not being profitable is a good thing, but just the fact that there's people there that are buying and spending, and that you found them already is a really good thing. Have you just been sending ads to lookalike audiences, or have you been funneling your audiences through different interests?
So these two prospecting ad sets, one is Insta, one is Facebook. And this one's like Nespresso conquesting. So I sniffed around and looked at who their big competitors were, and it was like Keurig Coffee or Nespresso. When I looked at Keurig, it was all like, it was not really their audience. It was like Dollar General type people. Like it just looked like not the type of people who were going to spend $15 on a couple of packs of coffee. So then the other option was Nespresso, which was much higher end, and their affinity groups were like Nordstrom Rack and all this other type stuff. So I went and built a custom audience around that to sort of prospect against it. And so far it's done okay. I mean, it hasn't done great. Actually, it's done pretty shitty, but 13 and 13 purchases here, so not a ton. So that's basically all I'm doing in prospecting. The rest is, these are lookalike audiences based on their subscribers, and then these are retargeting, and they're all going to the same place. They're all going to that holiday landing page, which I should probably update to the non-holiday landing page. And I can add in some stuff on there about education as well, because that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I look, I might not be right on that. I might be wrong, but I just think like, I know that's a problem that happens all the time. It's tough to go. It used to be easier, even just like 5 years ago, you could more easily go straight from ad to shop page and have that work, and it still can. But oftentimes, especially if it's a product where it is something different enough to where it's not just like I already know what's going on here, then yeah, it makes sense to educate them on, hey, here's what the product is, here's how it benefits you. And then when they are on the page, they're just already like you've already what's the word, like position them or condition them to make the purchase, right? Okay, so what would you say has been your most successful so far? Have you narrowed in on anything that you think has been like this has worked, or is it all just kind of like nothing's really showing that it's working quite yet?
I mean, I'm not really seeing anything that stands out from the crowd. Like the retargeting, purchases are definitely higher. Like there's a higher volume of retargeting, but I mean that's just the nature of retargeting. The prospecting is still pretty poor, but I think if there was a way for me to just tighten up the retargeting and the lookalike audiences so that they perform better. I mean, if you look here, we got 27 purchases, 35 purchases, and 21 purchases across the 2 retargetings and the 1 lookalike audience. Like that would be nice to just get those numbers higher.
Right.
The prospecting, I always feel like is going to be some sort of like mix between targeting and unique messaging that's relevant to that consumer.
Yeah.
And Chuck and I come from the thought of like, oh, we'll come up with like crazy shit, and then that'll get people to click it. But I know like I'm trying to be like very mindful of like let's not throw a bunch of crazy, disparate creative against stuff until we find an audience that works. I just don't know what that.
Right.
I feel like it's one of those. I'll know when I see it, but I don't feel like I found it yet.
Sure, and I think that's the right approach to find audience before you like dump a lot of resources into different ad creative. Although you do need ad creative that's at least good enough to find your audiences, but like that image is good. I mean, it's been working. So
we have a video asset that we're gonna cut. Like it's like a van camping life sort of video.
Yeah, I think that's a good video. I think you could run that as the ad, and that would be a really good video to run as an ad. It might also be worth putting that on the page that they land on. And then this is what I remembered my thought. I would do, like, I think that's a good video. I'd also test a video where even if it's just a video, someone taking a video of you in your home, just doing a quick like 15, 20 seconds as if you just woke up and you're like, hey, check this out. Like, this is how this works. Like just as a normal person, not trying to be creative or brandy or extreme or like just no branding, just normal person actually using it inside of your home. And then I think you have a good look for like a coffee ad type of thing. I'm not saying it has to be you, but I'm just looking at the pieces here and going, that would probably also be a really good video to test as an ad. People are much more, and I even see it as like a big mistake where people brand too much now, because people are very accepting of like just seeing a product work in someone's normal life and being like, oh, it just triggers like, yep, that would work perfectly in my life just by seeing a normal person use it. So, and that doesn't, making that video will take 3 minutes and cost nothing, so I think that would be a worthy piece of ad creative to test.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's not to say that the video you just showed me isn't, like, I think that one's great too, as more of like a branded, fun type of video.
Yeah, we can do that. That's easy to make.
All right, I've got a couple things, unless you've got something here still.
No, I I'm
Okay.
you tell me what you want to see, and I'll
Okay,
take it.
so I think I'd like to see one if we can go through your lookalikes, how you've set those up, I guess, and then also take a look at your targeting, like your actual ad sets, some of those.
So these are the audiences. This is the lookalike of subscribe member exports. This was the sort of clean audience. So they were just different exports of the MailChimp audience that those guys
Okay.
had. And then I did like a 2% expansion
And
on that.
and what size are those? Like the top one here, what size is that email list? Do you know? Because when you upload it, Facebook has to match the emails to active accounts or accounts that exist on Facebook, and sometimes Facebook can't find enough matches to actually make a real audience, not quote unquote real, but so I'm wondering if that's what maybe the not available here is. But what are we at? Like 28,000?
32,000.
32,000. Okay, so that's a lot. So that should be, and those are legit customers. So that should, I don't know why it's saying not available.
Yeah, it's 34,000.
Okay.
And then that was the total list of subscribed members, and then there's like a bunch of non-subscribed members, so people who purchased but aren't subscribed to their email list.
Gotcha.
And then there was like an unsubscribed list. I didn't obviously use that list, and then I forgot what clean was. Clean was something else. Oh, and I also only targeted U.S. customers, just because they were trying to hit their sales numbers for the year, and it just made the most sense to keep this thing as focused as possible in the United States.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go take a look at some of your targeting, your ad sets. Scroll down to where it's like location and interest targeting. Okay, so you got your lookalike there, 1845, all genders. Yep, audience 3.4 mil. Okay, so you shot this one just no interest targeting at all, just straight to the lookalike audience. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there other ones where you did? Yeah, you did do some with interest targeting. Can we look at those? Okay.
And
so
I just pulled from the interest that I found when I sniffed around the Nespresso books.
Sure. Okay. This is good. I've got some thoughts that I see some stuff I think we can use to help drive some costs down. So the first thing I'm seeing is that your audience sizes are pretty big. So this one's 20 million and the other one was like 3.4 mil, if I remember right. What's the daily budget that you're giving these?
Like $40.
$40. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I would do. So the first thing I'm seeing is that you just and it's not a bad thing to test really wide audiences. I like to do that as well, but I also and you're more likely to find success and profitable success through narrow targeting than wide targeting. Although wide can work and it is good to test that. But what I'm seeing here is that you first went wide instead of narrow. And so I would say just use because it's been converting, and I'd even test, and we may need to talk more about this, but test your other lookalike audiences, but whichever one you've been using and has been working, I'd just set up new ads and use that same audience. And then I'd just set up targeting so that you just start to narrow it down. So where your audience is not a 20 million potential reach, but maybe something like 6,000 or 14,000 or something like that. And so the way that I would do that, and one other thing that I'm seeing right here, and stop me at any time if you need to, but how you have the people who match. One thing I want to do with you is go into audience insights and show you how you can kind of hone in more on like just tighter audiences, more relevant audiences than like a big Nordstrom rack or something like that. And I wouldn't put, well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe like 8, 9, 10, something like that. Different interests all compiled into the same ad set. I wouldn't do that. If you want to test each one of those interests, I would create 9 different ad sets and put each interest in each one, or a different interest in each one of those ad sets.
To see which one's working well.
To see which one's working well, exactly. And then also just because this, like, you don't need, if you're running $40 budget a day, like, you don't need a 20 million people sized audience. That's just, you're giving Facebook way more people to have to sift through when it just doesn't need to. So if it makes a little bit more work for you, like, right, it would be way nicer to just like dump 100 interests in and be like, Facebook, figure this out. But if you take the time to do the extra clicking and set each one up, and I can show you, do you know how to duplicate your ads?
Yeah, that's how I created all of these.
Okay, cool.
I probably created a new campaign. Well, yeah, I know, I kind of have an idea of it. This interface is really clunky.
It is. It takes, it has gotten better, I will say. I'll give them that. But it takes a bit to, I mean, you're right. It's
clearly designed by an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, man, the first time I jumped in here in like 2015, I think, I was just like, what is this thing?
Yeah, I was the same way when we were at Inboard. I was just like, okay, I got to set up like retargeting for our ad because we're about to be on Shark Tank. And then I got in there and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, let me pay someone else to figure this thing out. And then it like did not perform because go figure, $1,500 electric skateboard is not it's not an impulse buy for most of America.
That's anyways. True. Did you just a quick question there? Did you guys ever try YouTube advertising or like advertising with YouTube influencers? From what I've seen, that's how any of the electric skateboards that have succeeded seems like they've succeeded off the back of YouTube influencers.
So I need to basically duplicate. So basically, like take this prospecting audience, make 9 different versions of this ad set, and then slice it down. So it's like I'm targeting each interest group to see like is Nordstrom Rack performing versus Tory Burch. If Tory Burch isn't performing, just kill that and move on.
Right, but I think the best thing we could do if you want to would be to actually set up a couple ads.
Yeah.
And then within that, we'll do a little bit of work inside of Audience Insights to find you what should be a little bit better interest targeting.
That'd be great. Do you think that we can create a new campaign for this thing?
Yeah, sure.
I can put a pin in the holiday campaign and move on?
Yep. Just go create new campaign. Let's do a conversions campaign. Have you been using, I should have looked at that. Were you using cost control in your other, okay, good.
No, I was worried that I didn't know what to do with it.
Okay, I kind of spoke a little too quickly. It may be worth using that a little bit now, because you have at least an idea of what some of your cost per purchases are. I always tell people leave that off if you don't have any data, but then once you have some data, then you can use that to kind of drive stuff down. We won't use that on this one, because I want to see. So what I'm trying to set up for you here is set up a couple ads with some targeting that I think should work a little bit better for you, and then just kind of get that data back and then iterate and optimize off of that.
Okay, great.
Budget and daily schedule. $40 is good if you want to stick with that. Let's just keep going down. Throw in your custom audience here, your lookalike, I mean. And so what were they again? There were two subscriber lists.
There's more here than I have of like non-subscribed members.
So okay, I wouldn't value subscribed over non-subscribed. I would look at it all the same as these are people that have purchased this product from this website. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm not saying you necessarily need to, although it might be good to take those two, merge them all into the same file and create a lookalike that way, because that'll have way more data in it for Facebook, I'm assuming, unless the unsubscribed list is small, but I'm assuming that's a pretty big list too. So it might be worth bringing all of that into one list and creating a lookalike off of that one list. But also you can just test them. Like and maybe I'm assuming too much here, but it seems like you're using the subscriber list because you think it'll be the better list because they're subscribed. That just might not be the case because we're not focusing on people that sign up to email or to newsletters. We're focused on people that click and buy, right? And so the non-subscribed might actually be more of the type of person that's a click and buy versus, hey, I want to join your newsletter type of thing. Again, this is all theory, but it's stuff that you want to test. And to me, I don't know how big that list is, the non-subscribed list, but if that's a good size list, I think you might just be overlooking how effective that list might actually be for you. Maybe even more effective than your subscribed one.
Yeah, I'll pull it all together into a single list to create an audience around that.
Okay. But yeah, so for now, let's throw, just the lookalike in there. Mm-hmm. And then another thing you can do is, so like when you upload when you create a lookalike off of a custom audience, you can just do that same thing, like the exact same steps again at the same percentage. And it creates a different lookalike audience. Like the data, it doesn't match up data exactly the same every single time you run it. So you can create different 2% lookalike audiences off of the same custom audience, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like you can upload the data set and then create a new custom audience for it, but basically, like let's say you got 25,000 people in the list, and then there's 1.5 million people on Facebook, and it just pulls another, it pulls a percentage of that, and it can pull a different percent from somewhere in the giant queue.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yep. So you can create, 2% lookalikes off of the same custom, and maybe one performs better than the other just because Facebook happened to match that one better. So there's some thoughts on lookalikes. Okay. For now, I'm getting a little distracted there with that because the point of this ad is just to focus more on the targeting. So we've got locations at US age range. Here, let's actually do this. So in another tab, go to where we could hover over the ad sets and click view chart. We want to go view some of the charts on the ads that you've ran. Yeah, let's do the 27 purchases one.
This guy?
Yeah. Click view charts. Oh, good. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Let me go back.
Click on demographics. I'm just trying to find age range here. Okay, so it looks like it's mainly women 35 to 44. So I would target that.
So this shit is super skewed right now because one of their roasters did a partnership with some YouTube Instagrammer named Emma Chamberlain. And so she just launched her own Chamberlain coffee, probably like right before the new year. So it could be skewing the results a little bit. She has like 8 million Instagram.
I mean, but this is only showing people that clicked on the ad that you ran and bought it from that ad.
True.
So it's not showing any people that. I mean, maybe I wouldn't factor that in, honestly. I think this is going to be pretty clean. Maybe you get a tiny bit of some sort of Chamberlain traffic, let's call it, but no, I think for the most part this is going to be pretty accurate as far as like these are just people that saw your ad, clicked on it, and then made the purchase.
Cool.
So I'd say, yeah. So I'd try this. Let's go back to setting where we're setting up the ad and change it genders to women. Mm-hmm. And then age, what did we say? What was it? 35 to 44, 34 to 45?
Yeah, it looks like 54s.
35. So the blue line is the results, the purchases. So we want to do, so the 35 to 44-year-old females are the ones who made the most purchases. So we want to do that. So 35 to 44.
That tight, huh?
Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of this comes down to testing. So another thing you might want to do after we set this one up, maybe we want to do a duplicate, and all we do is change the age range from 25 to 34 and test that group, and see which age range performs better.
Okay.
So now if we look at our audience size, that honed it down quite a bit. We're at 440,000. You see in the right column.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they put all this shit in here that like, oh, it might be too low of a conversion. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I better pump up that number.
Okay. Let me help you, because I know it's super frustrating. The only thing that's I think really worth paying attention to is the potential reach, and the meter that it gives you. But even the meter can be off sometimes. And when it comes to the estimated daily results, like I've literally had it right here where it says, like if I'm doing lead gen, for example, it says you won't get any leads with this targeting, and I run the ad and I get leads. Like, so it's these estimated daily results are, I pretty much just don't pay attention to those and
Okay.
just kind of look at that potential reach.
All right. Thank you.
And dude, Facebook has a few things packed into here where it makes you feel like you need to do things, and really all that Facebook's doing with that is getting you to spend more money. And I believe this is kind of one of those things. I think they're trying to give you but most of the time it's like feeding you information that says you need to spend more type of stuff. So I just kind of ignore that.
All right. Cool.
All right, detailed targeting. Let's click into that. Click off. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So where's it? It says expand your detailed targeting. Click that off. That's Facebook trying to steal more of your money. Mm-hmm. And then right here, type in coffee. Click that first one. All right, so 350,000. That's smaller. We can definitely go a lot smaller and a lot more targeted, but I would like that right. Oh, so that right there, as far as your like interest and age and gender, location, I would say that's a pretty good one to test and see how that goes. And then now I would change your placements.
Let me ask you this. So
yeah,
I should probably use imagery then that is of like a woman drinking coffee, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the right line of thinking. If you're targeting 35 to 44-year-old women, your creative, yeah, you want to put a creative in front of them that makes sense for a 35 to 44-year-old woman, which yes is different than a 23-year-old male.
Cool. Yeah, I will do that. Okay, so you think this is good in terms of an ad set? This is good to go.
Yeah, and so here's what I'm kind of trying to do here. Narrow your targeting, but I'm keeping the narrowing in this specific one just a little bit wide. Like we can go way more narrow than just coffee, right? That's a huge interest. Like, that's actually, if you have it, sorry, do this, click it off, click coffee off, and then, oh no, that's good. Sorry. I just wanted to see the audience size. I didn't know. Yeah, so it says 569 million. So that's just a huge interest, but we're going to use that as a narrower, let's call it, to kind of hone into, just because even though it's a lookalike audience based off of people that purchased coffee, it's however many millions of people, and for sure Facebook has included people in there that don't care about coffee. And so now that we just narrowed it through coffee, we're only going to get people that like coffee. And so we just excluded everybody that doesn't like the interest, the coffee interest on Facebook, which yes, some of those people will still like coffee and just not have like the interest on Facebook, but for the most part, we're doing a really good job at just finding coffee people.
Okay.
So, but like, for example, what I would have us do in the next ad set that we set up is I'd say, let's click on narrow audience.
Mm-hmm. So you just want me to save this audience then?
No, let's stay right here. So underneath where it says narrow audience, I just want to show you as an example right here. So right underneath, yeah, it's tiny right there. Yep. And click in there. And then let's say, like type in Dutch Bros. And then click, that's a 1.2 million audience. And so now we just narrowed to 8,900, right?
Wow.
And so
that tight?
Yeah, so that's going to be like, these are really people that like are drinking coffee, right? And it's Dutch Bros people, so maybe Dutch Bros isn't the right kind of coffee people for coffee. You know, I don't know. I think it's very much worth a test. But yeah, that's what I do. So like click off Dutch Bros now. Mm-hmm. And we got to finish setting up placements and ad creative and all that. But as far as targeting goes, I would run this. and then I'd create another one and I'd narrow it through Dutch Bros and run that one. And then I'd create another one and instead of Dutch Bros, I'd put Starbucks and run that one. Do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the goal here is now we're at 350,000. That seems like it's kind of the maximum you'd want to run an ad buy for. And so then you go and slice down into more demographics. So let's say, for example, you do Starbucks, and then maybe the idea is to do an ad placement where the copy or the ad says something like versus Starbucks or something that gets a little bit more narrow in the story that you're telling with the ad. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely a thing you can do and can definitely be a good thing to do to match your creative to just match your creative more to the audience you're putting it in front of. But that can also mean, it doesn't have to, but it can mean more cost, more time to create the creative, right? Especially if it's videos, that becomes much more, I don't know, I say much more difficult to do, but in the example I gave you of like if you create the video if you're just inside of your own home, then like one video could be, hey, like you it's the exact same video, right? You putting the thing into the cup of water and you start the video saying, hey, I know you've been drinking Starbucks lately, but you need to drink this instead. Refilm it again. Hey, I know you've been going to Dutch Bros, but check this out. I know you've been going to Beans and Brews, but check this out. And so and that creates cheaply and quickly a bunch of different ads that are matched more to the person that you're putting in front of, even though it's just a quick, hey, Dutch Bros, hey, Starbucks, hey. But that little stuff like that can make a difference. And then with more resources and stuff like that, then you can obviously build out as much content as you want, right? But
yeah, it's luckily we also own a startup that makes dynamic videos. So
well, that will work to your benefit then.
We can pump out a shitload of those. Okay, cool. That's super helpful. Yeah, I had no idea how to use the exclude or narrow audience things. That's really, I'll start doing that offline as well. So now what?
So I think let's go to the other tab that you have open, and I want to show you how to use Audience Insights a little bit. And I'll send you a link to a YouTube video I have on this too. It's a good one.
Okay.
So let's go to just close out of this.
Audiences?
Yeah. And by the way, when you click it, we only viewed the charts on and the age demographic on one of those ad sets, but it's worth going into each one of those and seeing, which demographic has been the demographic that's been purchasing the most.
Okay, that's a good point.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but coffee feels less like Starbucks and more like a local coffee shop.
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's definitely worth targeting Starbucks, Dutch Bros, Beans and Brews, and let's just type in Dutch Bros here. In interest, yeah. And then go to page likes. And scroll down. Okay, so like Silverwood Theme Park, so that's a lot of Oregon, but that makes sense because Dutch Bros is all over Oregon. All right, so that gave us a lot of Oregon, but Silverwood Theme Park has do you know what the affinity rating means over here?
Yeah, it means how likely they are to be shared between the two different groups.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so like Silverwood Theme Park, I don't know what that is, but it's saying it's got a decently high affinity. So I would go run your lookalike audience through the Silverwood Theme Park interest. And like this way we just found, like it didn't pull up Nordstrom Rack, right? We found targeting that's a little bit more narrowed and should be, in theory, better targeting than targeting Nordstrom Rack.
So you're thinking like targeting like Verve, Coffee Shop, and other not like Starbucks is huge and Blue Bottle might be too big as well, but like targeting those sort of regional coffee shops or things.
And I'm not super familiar what like even those would be, but if you know some of those, let's type them up here in interest and see if they come up. And click off Dutch Bros. But yeah, so my idea here is if you can get Facebook to pull up data on smaller, more, let's say, hipster, I don't know if that's the right word, but
I like that.
coffee shops, then
Yes, you got like Blue Bottle.
yep. And so now I would take those and plug those in as interests.
Would you set those up as coffee and narrow the audience, or just set them up as a specific interest without like,
probably just as standalone interests. But you like if my guess is that if you narrowed them through coffee, you might make your audience too small. But you don't really know that until you plug them in. And then also like Pete's Coffee, like, just because they show up here as pages doesn't mean that they'll for sure show up as interest when you're setting up your ad set. So you have to go type in Pete's Coffee and see if it does pop up or not.
Mm-hmm. But like Madewell, Warby.
Yeah, and like those ones where they're obviously not like coffee related but share similar audiences, then that one I would probably go coffee narrowed through Warby Parker.
Got it.
That makes sense. And then also you can take like Pete's Coffee, for example, and now go plug that in into the interest and see what page likes. No, sorry, inside of Audience Insights. Mm-hmm. It's like if you go type in Pete's Coffee. So like let's say you run an ad to Pete's Coffee and it converts well. Then what you can do is type in Pete's Coffee, click off Blue Bottle. And now you see audiences that are closely related to the Pete's Coffee audience. So if the Pete's Coffee audience works, then you can come back here and target these ones and see if those work. See how that kind of.
Beach Boardwalk, look at that.
So that's one way to. That's my favorite way to use Audience Insights to find interest to target. And that doesn't mean that they're gonna work. You still have to plug them in and test them and just see. But this is letting Facebook do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as finding like expanding audiences that are still your type of customer.
So like I'd set up one for Pete's, and then I could set up another one for coffee and Warby Parker or something like that, or coffee and like Patagonia would probably be a good one, because it's like it's sort of really good for like camp. I mean, a lot of their lifestyle photography is like camping and stuff, so I could do some things like that.
Yeah, so you might want to go like maybe you want to go Patagonia narrowed through, and you can play around with this stuff a lot, but you could go Patagonia narrowed through coffee. You could go just Patagonia, maybe that works. You could go Patagonia narrowed through Pete's Coffee and Tea and see how that does. Like, lots of testing like that. But yeah, that's the idea exactly.
Didn't we already do Patagonia?
No, I didn't run a camping one because I don't know, I just didn't, and I was concerned I was going to blow the budget.
Another one I like to do is media outlets. So I'd go to Google and just type like best coffee in 2020 and just see. I do two things: see what outlets are writing about coffee in 2020 and target those outlets on Facebook, and maybe narrow that through coffee. And then also I would look at what coffee brands they're talking about in their articles as the best coffee people of 2020 and target those brands on Facebook as well. Targeting your competitors' customers, right? Just figuring out just through a first page Google search, best coffee 2020, which outlets are talking about it, which brands are they talking about, and go after their customers.
Rad, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
You think I should keep the ad budget at $40 per day?
So here's how I look at ad budget. Give it enough money to spend to make to match the amount of the sale. Sorry, struggling over my words.
Either a matching or positive ROI.
Right. Just because like if you're selling a $40 product and you give Facebook $5 to spend every day, like might happen, but man, like if you can just give Facebook $5 and it makes a $40 sale for you every day, I mean, that would be a miracle, right?
That'd be a miracle.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So you got to just play it a little smarter than that, and it stinks because you're risking your money, and instead of risking 5, you're risking 40, but you do got to give it enough to play with.
You got to pay to play.
Which you've done with, which is really good. I jump on here sometimes with people that they just it's just like you haven't spent enough, which sucks because everyone wants to be frugal and not, but that's the game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got some pretty decent results for
you do
kind
for
of
sure.
what we were doing. So
yeah, you do. Let's go look at your ad sets again. Okay, click on columns. The columns performance drop down menu. Yeah. And then click on customize columns. Okay, so in here you can choose just basically all the different data that it shows you. But if there's a couple ones in here, so there's ROAS. Do you know about that one? ROAS. So that's going to tell you your return on ad spend, and it'll give you a metric that tells you how profitable you are. And then also you can just use your amount spent with what do they call it?
Just use total.
Yeah, that's it. Purchase ROAS. Yeah, so so if you're at 1 is a break even, so you have been losing a little bit on all of it. And then so ideally you'd want to see your ROAS over 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go to click on the big drop down menu and go to pixels. See if this will give you what you're looking for under measure and report. Yeah, right there.
You used to have a roommate who had a cat named Pixel.
That's a pretty good cat name, actually.
It's a pretty good. It was a good cat.
Okay, so let's see if we click into details where it says view rich information about your pixel event details activity more. Yep. And then if you hit, I don't know you guys will probably just want. I don't know if we want to spend really our time in here right now, but just to show you that this is here.
This is here. Got it. Thank you. I didn't even know.
I've used this is wonderful. This is actually great.
This is legit. Thank you. Yeah. All right, what's next, Alex? I know we're running low on your time.
Yeah, so I think let's just finish setting up that ad, and I think that should be pretty good. The last thing I wanted to say was just about your budget. So yeah, if $40 a day gives Facebook a good amount of money to play with, but especially if you're trying to find targeting, then what you want to do is be able to test as much different targeting as possible to find the ones that work the best. So you may want to your strategy may want to be maybe you do go from 40 to 20 or 40 to 15, and instead of letting Facebook see what it can do within 1 day, maybe it has to take 3 days to play around to try and find a sale. But you over 3 to 5 to 7 days, you're able to spread out a bunch of different tests, even though it's a lower budget. And you just have to let it run for a little bit longer, and Facebook won't have within a 24-hour period, that amount to play with to find it. And I personally would rather give Facebook enough to play with than not. But in the case of, limited budget, trying to test as much as possible, it's not a bad strategy. It can definitely work to scale down your daily budget per ad set so that you can create more ad sets with a bunch of different tests inside of them, and then just let those run for a longer period of time so that Facebook can have enough to spend.
And then how do you know, is there anything that I should be looking for ROAS of 1 or greater, and be like, okay, now we know this is it. I need to double down on this audience in terms of let's increase our spend here because we know we've got a profitable ad unit.
Yeah, so if you see one come back profitable, then there's a couple different ways you'll want to scale. I would say, here's a really, really good tip. If it does come back profitable, don't touch it, don't change it, don't do anything to it. If you make a little adjustment to an ad that's working, you're most likely going to break the whole thing. So if you ever get one that works, don't ever touch that thing again. Just let it keep going until you want to turn it off. But what you will want to do is duplicate it, and then you can create multiple duplicates at the same time. So say you're running a $20 a day budget and now you want to scale because it's working. What you do, there's two different ways you can scale. One is you duplicate, make 10 different duplicates and leave the budget the same at 20. And what's 10 times 20? 200. Now you're spending 200 a day, but that's across 11 different ad sets. The other way you can do it is duplicate and increase the duplicates ad budget to 200. And so now you have two ad sets, one that's running 20 a day and the other running at 200 a day. So now you just scaled to 220 a day. But you did it by just duplicating the one that's already working without ever changing anything about the targeting, the ad creative. All you did was duplicate and adjust the budget as needed.
Really? You think?
Yep.
No? Wow. That simple.
Yep. I mean, that's if your ad's working, right? Like if it's profitable, if it comes back working and your budget's, daily budget's $20 a day, $40 a day, or whatever, duplicate. And then inside that duplicate, you can increase, or what I like to do is just duplicate at the same budget and just make 10 duplicates or something and see how that goes. It might come back where like 2 or something out of the 10 aren't profitable, but you just got 8 out of those 10 that are profitable, and you can just leave those on and running.
And then, so then you've identified something in that ad that's working. So then it's just creating additional duplicates of that, but then maybe starting to tweak things to see try to zero in on what is working.
Yep. So you can just create other duplicates, and then inside of those, so like if you have one that's working, I would at least create some duplicates that you don't change anything and run those because it's working. But then you're absolutely right. You can also create other duplicates and say it was a just one image before. Now you create the duplicate and now you try a carousel, but you're still sending it to the same targeting and everything. And now you can clearly see, because it's already an audience that has worked for you, if a carousel performs better over a single image or not.
And then if the carousel is performing better than the single image, do you kill the single image then, or do you just keep them both running?
That depends. So if it's profitable, no. If it's profitable and making you money, just let it run. But there does become a thing called ad fatigue, or like the frequency of the ad, like how many times someone's seen it. So that's really the only time where you want to, if it's profitable, it's profitable, but usually what eventually happens is ad fatigue, where the audience has seen that ad 7 times already, and so they're getting sick of it, and now your ad's starting to not be as profitable just because of ad fatigue. And so that's when you'd want to probably turn that one off. But if it's profitable for them, I don't really see any reason to turn it off.
All right, cool. We can do that. Well, this is great, Alex. Thank you so much for all your help, dude. Any other stuff we should talk about?
I think, if we can go through the placements, I just want to make sure you're doing the placements right.
Sure.
So my idea with placements is the same as with interest targeting. Don't put a bunch of placements into the same. Separate them out into different ad sets. So this one I would choose Facebook feed, or just pick one placement and run that. And so it looks like you're choosing Facebook feed. And then so if you want to also test Instagram feed, I wouldn't click it on in this ad set. I would create this one, publish it, duplicate it, and then just come back in and change it from Facebook newsfeed to Instagram newsfeed, and then publish it. So
I was running that, but then noticed that. So I was doing that for a lot of it, but then I was like, oh man, I'm really burning through budget over here, and I'm not really seeing a performance increase. So then I think it was like one of my lookalike audiences. I was like, okay, well, let's just kill this one that's dedicated to Instagram, because it's the same content and the same targeting, and I just added Instagram to it as well to help reduce my overall daily budget. Is that okay to like merge stuff later if it's performing or no?
Yeah, you can. I just personally think it's better to separate it, because when the data comes back, you just see much more clearly like Facebook feed works over Instagram or not. But no, you absolutely can. And then if you go back to where I showed you to hover over view charts,
Hmm.
like how we clicked over to demographics, you can click over to placements, I think is what they call it in there. And it'll tell you if it's been distributing your ad to mainly Facebook feed or IG feed. So you can put them in there together, and then you can come in here and see which one it's been sending it to.
Got it.
Yep, right there, that's the spot. Um, so yeah, you can, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm saying separate all this stuff out, but you're absolutely right. That spreads your budget out more. So you just have to find whatever balance works best for you, you're most comfortable with, is best for your client. I just always try to, especially at the beginning where you're trying to find targeting and profitable targeting, I just try and run as many tests as I can, like without compromising the whole thing, like
Hmm.
budget wise, right? Um, to find what's hopefully one, two, three, five different ones that convert profitably. I think the main thing looking at it is just that, I mean, you've been getting conversions, which is great, and I think them to just drive down to get it profitable. To me, it just looked like so far your audiences have just been really really wide, and I think if you can just narrow that, that should drive down your costs. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention real fast. I would try, and it might not be enough. You might not have a big enough list, but I'd try and download the conversions, the email conversions, the emails of the conversions from your ads, and see if you can create a lookalike audience based off of just those ones.
Got
If it's just if 123 purchases is the total, that might not be enough, but it also might be. So I'd export, upload, and see if you can get it Facebook to match them up at all.
Well, I also have the
Oh,
AdWords as well. So we sold like 30 units through AdWords.
okay, yeah,
Um,
grab those as well. And then I'd also, this is another one. I'd really prioritize this one. I'd say test that non-subscribe list also, because I think there might be, I don't know. I think that's an important list, and it's like I said before, the just thinking a subscriber list versus a non-subscriber list as far as Facebook ads converting. I don't know. I just don't think there's really any reason to give one more value over the other until you test it and see. So
yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it.
for sure.